Okay, grade 8, now we're going to be doing the Theorem of Pythagoras. This is quite a fun section and it's all about triangles. And we're essentially going to prove a triangle to be a right triangle. And what does that mean? And we're going to use the Theorem of Pythagoras to figure this out. Let's get straight into it. More than 2,000 years ago, Pythagoras' theorem was discovered by a man, as you guessed it, named Pythagoras. Right? So he discovered this very fact that if you take a triangle, or a right-angled triangle, where the angle is 90 degrees. So remember, a right-angled triangle has a square in it because there's a right angle 90 degrees triangle. Remember that's 90 degrees. And a whole circle is 360 degrees, which is 4 90 degrees, because 90 degrees times 4 is 360. You know that 9 times 4 is 36. That makes sense. For a right-angled triangle of 90 degrees, A, B, and C, the lengths of the triangle, with squares on each side, and we have squares like this. So now we had the 3 lengths of the triangle. That's also A, that's also A. So the lengths, that's also C, that's also C. These are squares on each side. So for a right angled triangle with squares made up on each side, right? That's A squared, B squared, and C squared. That is the volume of each of these squared. The biggest square has the exact same area as the other 2 squares put together, other 2 squares added together, and I mean exact every single time. So that is to say that our pink square, which is our A squared, plus our green square, which is our B squared, is equal to our blue squared, which is our C squared. Our blue square, which is our C squared. Right, so let's just look at an example. In a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the other 2 sides. What is the hypotenuse? This is the length opposite the right angle, which will always be the longest length. So we have our square, right? Which one is the hypotenuse? This over here, the long one is the hypotenuse, because it's the one opposite the right angle. And say it has a height of 3, a base of 4, and a length of 5. We know that the red square is 3 multiplied by 3. The green square will be 4 multiplied by 4. And the blue square will be 5 multiplied by 5. So 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. So red, 9, plus green, 16. What does that equal? 25. And that is equal to the blue. Make sure you understand what happens here, even if you need to pause the video to understand it better. Okay, how do you prove this? We're going to be given a triangle and not told if it's a right angle or not. We will be given some information. For example, we have a triangle. It's 12, it's 9, and it's 15. What is the hypotenuse if this is a right angle triangle? The hypotenuse, right? Practice writing that word. Don't get confused with the spelling. If this is a right angle triangle, will be 15 because that is the longest one. It must always be the longest side, the hypotenuse. Sometimes you might not know what it is, but in this case it's 15. If it is a right angle, A squared plus B, we're going to prove it, A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So we have the left-hand side, which is A squared plus B squared, and that is equal to 9 squared plus 12 squared, because this is our A. If it is a right angle, that's our B. That is our C. So our A squared plus B squared is equal to 9 squared plus 12 squared. 9 squared is 81. 9 times 9 is 81. 12 times 12 is 144. What does that equal? 225. Do your long addition if you need to. That's 144 plus 81. Remember that. You can always revert to that. And then our right-hand side is equal to C squared, which is 15 squared, and that is 225. So yes, this must be a right-angled triangle. So we can put our square over here. Okay, so that's how we're going to prove it if it is a right-angled triangle. So we're going to be given a right-angled triangle, not told if it's a right angle. We're going to be given some information. Now the information is going to be 35 degrees, 55 degrees. Remember, on a triangle, all angles add up to 100 degrees all the time. right? I put this in capitals because it has to happen every single time. There's never a triangle you'll ever see in the world that does not have this. So what is x degrees? Well, 35 plus 55 plus x have to equal 180. So x is simply equal to 180 minus 55, we took it to that side, minus 35, we took it to that side, and that is equal to 90 degrees. Oh, brilliant. It is a right-angled triangle. So let's look at this triangle here, 24, 30, and 10. This is our first example. Right, so we look at the triangle. Is the triangle a right-angled triangle? Okay, so what we're going to do, we can already see that this is the longer side. So we say a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So let's calculate what a squared plus b squared is, and then let's see if that is equal to c squared. Okay, a squared is 24 squared plus b squared is 10 squared. I've called this our a, this is our b, and this our c. And c squared is 30 squared. Okay, you might have difficulty here with 24 squared. So that's 24 multiplied by 24. We're going to do long multiplication. That's quite all right. 4 times 4 is 16. Add a 1. 4 times 2 is 8. Add a 1 is 9. Add our magic 0. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. 6 times 0 is 6. 9 times 8 is 17. We add a 1, and 4 plus 1 is 5. 576. 576 plus 10 squared is 100. So this is equal to 676. Okay, c squared is 30 times 30. So c squared is equal to, what is 30 times 30? This is 900. We know that 3 times 3 is 9, and it's squared, so we're adding 2 zeros, 900. Ooh, this is definitely not a right-angled triangle. So we're going to say no, it is not a right-angled triangle. What would we need to change 30 to make it a right-angled triangle? So what would C need to be for this to be a right-angled triangle? So let's cross 30 out. Right, so now we want a squared plus b squared to equal c squared. So we're going to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that a squared plus b squared is 676. And we want to figure out c. How do we do this? We know that c is equal to the square root of 676, right? So now we need to find two numbers multiplied together that will give us 676. What if we tried 28 multiplied by 28? Because we know 30 is too big. So go 8 times 8 is 64, so we add our 4, we add our 6. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 6 is 22. We add our magic 0. 2 times 8 is 16 and a 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. That is 4, 8, 7. Oh, that is too big. It's not 28. Now, normally in questions, they're going to give you a simple answer that you will know. You'll never get something so complicated. But you can see that 28 is not going to work. It must be smaller than 28. We're also going to assume it's a whole number. Let us try, how about 26? Remember, it has to be bigger than 24. What if we tried, let's try 25. Or what about 26? Let's rather try 26. And that was a multiplication. 26 multiplied by 26. This is 6 times 6 is 36, 3. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. 2 times, or we add our magic 0. 2 times 6 is 12, we add our 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. That is 676. Oh, brilliant. There's our answer. So we know that the square root of 676, the square root is what number multiplied by itself will give us this number, is equal to 26. So C is equal to 26. Again, it will be a lot easier in a question, but just know the method you can use to solve it, no matter what or how difficult the question is. Give this question a practice, especially part 2. Let's have a look at this triangle. We look at the triangle and we want to solve x. We know it's a right-angled triangle. Okay, so we've got to solve x. That is easy. So we know it's a right-angled triangle, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? So what is a here? A is 1, b is 1. We know that c is the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle triangle, so that is a c. So a squared is 1 squared plus 2 squared, b squared, which is also, ignore that, 1 squared, and that is equal to c squared. 1 plus 1, or 1 squared is 1, plus 1, that is simply equal to c squared, and we know 1 plus 1 is 2, is equal to c squared. How do we get that square root away? We say square root of 2 is equal to c. So this is quite a common triangle and something you will see quite a lot in the future. C is equal to root 2. And that is our 1 by 1 unit triangle, as it were. Okay, that's just to show you. You'll see it a lot more in your future mathematics endeavors. Okay, let's have a look at the example. Solve for y. We know this is a right angle triangle. It would not be possible if we didn't have that right angle triangle. So now we're going to say that this must be our c squared. That must be c. This could be a. That could be b. That is our hypotenuse. Remember, write down hypotenuse here. We're going to use the Pythagoras formula. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. This is Pythag's formula that you must remember for right angle triangles. This is another way to say right angle triangles, right? So a squared is y squared plus b squared, which is 20 squared, and that is equal to c squared, which is 25 squared. Okay, let's see how we can do this. What is c squared? So we're going to leave that as y squared plus 20 squared is 400. That is equal to 25 squared. So that's 25 multiplied by 25. 5 times 5 is 5. 5 times, plus 2. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 2, or take the 2 across. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus another 2 is 12. We add our magic 0. 2 times 5 is 10. We have a 0 and a 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. We know that is 625. So that is 625. Okay, how do we get this 400 away? Onto this side, we're going to take it there. We're going to change the plus to a minus. Y squared is equal to 625 minus 400, which is equal to 225. You may be recognizing that 225. Where does it come from? Where did we have 225? What was 15 multiplied by 15? We had 5 times 5 was 25, add our 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. 5 times, add a magic 0. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 5. 7 plus 5 is 12, plus a 1, and that is 2. So 15 times 15 is 225. You should remember this from your multiplication timetables. So we know that y squared is equal to 225, which to solve for y is equal to the square root of 225. So what number times itself is equal to 225? Square root is what number times itself is equal to 225. And that we know is equal to 15, and that is our answer. Okay, well done grade 8s. We've done proving a triangle to be a right angle. Now we're going to solve some more right angle triangles.